Jordan Poole is getting picked on for these travel calls. That's the word, right? People are big mad about that Dallas game the other night where Steph got hit for a huge one late in the game. He got called twice for the same one. And I think it was an NBA record for travels called in a game. So that is kind of weird, right? There's no doubt about it. And the Jordan Poole thing has been going on really all season long. And some people feel like it's messing with his head and his game, his rhythm. How could it not be? And so Dev from In the Lab, shout out Dev, I've been following his stuff for 10 years, it feels like, released a video, a very snarky video, two of them, in fact, one with Luka and the other with Giannis, showing them carry and drag their pivot foots and travel and all that stuff. And, the one issue with that is, Dev, is that you chose two of the five most famous stars in the game, right? They're not going to be treated equal, right? It'd be one thing if you chose D'Lo or CJ McCollum, someone more of Poole's status, because as we know, not all these guys are treated the same. But nonetheless, I understand his point. And it's funny because, his brand, that 1v1 kind of Drew League style of basketball, this new generation of big bag basketball, right? He teaches players to operate in that gray area, right? That sleight of hand, that sleight of foot where it's not really a travel. It's not like if you do it right, it's not, right? If you foot replace, if you hang, if you start your dribble on the step, there's this gray area that this new generation of hooper operates in. And Dev is one of the innovators of it, right? When it comes to Jordan Poole, though, not all travels are created equal, right? And as quick as he is and as big as his bag is, his lack of fundamentals kind of expose his travels more to the live eye and to some of these referees, I think is what's happening here. But I also think that I know I made the point of status, Luka, Giannis. Here's where you push back on me, right? As I say this, I realize, well, they hit Steph with the travels, right? If you want to talk about a face of a franchise, a face of the league being held to the standard. So it also, I think, goes back to what we just talked about a video or two ago, the Warriors' dominance of the last 10 years, right? Light years ahead, the swagger, the confidence, the cockiness, some may call it that, right? Where, listen, these referees are humans, man. It's a human element. I always use police as an example of this because I think a lot of us, you have run-ins with the police in your youth, stuff like that. Well, hopefully not as an adult, right? But I think that people tend to treat policemen and cops like they're robots. Like they just, they F you, they just give them total attitude. And then what do? They give you attitude right back. They give you a difficult time right back. And I learned that, in my teenage years, like, hey man, these cops are humans too. Like you could finesse them. If you're polite with them and you kind of try to relate with them, they might cut you a break. The refs, it's just, again, humans. It doesn't matter what field we're talking about. And so I think that, when given the opportunity, a lot of these refs probably want to stick it to the Warriors after decades of especially with Draymond. And Draymond has obviously been on much better behavior this year, right? But the way he'll dog a referee out, it's like, dude, use some finesse now. You're in your 30s. Finesse them a little bit. Learn their name. That's everybody's different, right? Maybe that's not in him. But what I'm getting at here as well is I think that, this is a copycat league, right? And scouting reports and blueprints are laid. That first East Coast road trip where did we go 0-4 on it? 1-4. It was a terrible road trip to start the season, right? At some point at the start of that road trip in Miami and in Orlando, tape got out around the league that Jordan Poole travels on the catch every time, right? And when I noticed that I knew the tape was out, I mentioned it in my breakdown. I was like, hey, Jamal Mosley, the coach of the Magic, every time Poole caught the ball was screaming travel down the sidelines. And that to me alerted me like, oh, so like this is a thing that like the league is aware of and they're trying to, because Poole's so hard to keep in front of you, right? He's just dusting guys. He's already quick. And so teams are scouting him now. He's higher on the scouting list and they've realized, oh, he kind of has this travel thing on the catch. And so here's what I see. It seems like there's tape out on Poole traveling a lot because Mosley, their coach, was calling for a travel every time he ripped through.
Poole right down the lane.
This generation of hooper loves the foot replace, where they pop their feet, and so it allows them to really choose their pivot, and they can go either way, right? And I think that's what Jordan thinks he's doing here on the catch. But live game speed and the way he sets his feet, it certainly looks like he's got a left foot pivot foot, right? And really he does, because that right foot is going to move first. But the problem is it moves backwards. That reverse step is fine at times, but if you're going to cross step, meaning move towards your pivot foot, that reverse step is almost impossible to do without moving the pivot foot before the ball comes down. And that is where Poole is getting hit with these travel calls the most. And so how do you fix that? Well, if he's insistent on driving towards his pivot foot, which he seems to be, here's Tatum with the same move, and he does drag the pivot foot, which I think you can get away with. But when you swap them, that's what they're nailing you for. So he's going to cross step towards his pivot foot. But the difference is it's not a reverse step. He steps forward, and the ball comes down before that pivot foot leaves. And so if Poole wants to cross step and pull out left, pause, he's got to step forward rather than using that reverse step. Again, I get the point that Dev is making. And look, if you went and watched tape of all these ball handlers and scorers around the league, you're going to find travels, moving pivots, carries in particular, right? But is it causing an advantage? And to his credit, he pointed out some massive advantages with Giannis and Luka. Hopefully they get on him. Hopefully he has a big enough influence that can get out there. I think that was his point. But again, they're not all created equally. And if Poole, if he can get rid of that reverse step and be a little more fundamental, again, then he can operate in that gray area and the magic. Because, yeah, all these guys drag their pivot feet, right? All of them do. If you carry it at midcourt, you're not going anywhere. You could call it, right? But if you're carrying it, turning the corner, that's creating an advantage, right? Freezing the defense. And so, yeah, man, that's what I see. And I think that if he can clean that up, the other thing that he was doing is he throws the ball ahead when he's getting downhill into the mid-range, and then he gets hit with the carry a lot when he regathers it. It's a throw ahead dribble. And if he's just got to put it lower. He's got to put better spin on it and don't let it come up so high. So then he catches it underhand and turns it back over. But these are all things that he can clean up. And if he can just work on the basic fundamentals, rip through. To me, I don't like cross stepping because I know it's hard not to travel, but there's a time and a place for it. The other thing that he could do is, because he likes to attack left on the catch, he could catch it with a right foot pivot foot, right? And then just rip throughout that way to the left, and it would be cleaner. But again, so much of this is muscle memory, right? Drill babies. And it's going to be hard for him to correct because his muscle memory is to do that reverse step and switch his feet. And it's more blatant than the toe dragging, right? And that clip of Tatum, I know he drags that pivot foot, but he doesn't switch it. His feet don't switch. And then the other big difference is the ball is coming out. The ball is coming out for that first dribble as that pivot foot is starting to move a little bit. And that's the key. Poole, the ball doesn't come down soon enough. So can you get the ball down soon enough? I would try to eliminate that reverse step. And he has to understand that that's in his scouting report. The refs and the teams are aware of it, and they're pointing it out on a nightly basis. Bulls tonight, they have had a very underwhelming season, injury riddled, right? And I think we're all waiting to see the encore from Jonathan Kuminga, and they got to start getting wins here. Everybody's hovering around 500, but at home, hey, they don't lose, right? It kind of feels like a trap game. I don't know. I can't front. I haven't watched much of the Bulls this season. I'll be back with the breakdown on my Patreon tomorrow. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.